Hey bakers, welcome back to My Bake Escape. It is Halloween this week, and to celebrate, I made these adorable, delicious Boo Brownies. For the full recipe, visit mybakeescape.com. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and Pinterest at My Bake Escape. And if you are subscribed, thank you so much for your support. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. All right, for this recipe, I took a shortcut and I used this Ghirardelli triple chocolate brownie mix, and I followed the instructions that are on the back of the box. This box I picked up from Costco, so it has 6 bags of this delicious chocolate brownie mix. For this recipe, I'm only going to use 2 of the bags. The recipe also calls for water, but what I like to do with brownies or chocolate recipes is add coffee. So you can just use some cold coffee from your coffee pot if you have some left over. I didn't, so I went ahead and used this instant coffee. I also needed 2 eggs, some vegetable oil, and of course that water that I'm gonna make coffee out of. For this recipe, I needed 2/3 cup of water. I made sure it was really hot, and then I added a heaping teaspoon of these instant coffee granules. Now, as I stated, this is very hot water, so I did let this sit for about 10 minutes to cool down. Once it was cool, I went ahead and added it to a large bowl. And then I also added the vegetable oil. I mixed these 2 ingredients together. You want to make sure the coffee is cool if you are going to use coffee like I did. If it's too hot, it will scramble the eggs, so make sure it is cool enough to use in the recipe. After mixing the coffee and vegetable oil together, I went ahead and added the eggs. This recipe calls for 2 eggs. Then I mixed the eggs in. Once everything was nice and creamed together, I added the 2 bags of the brownie mix. Now this brownie mix has chunks of chocolate inside of it. You can use a wooden spoon or a spatula to mix this together, but I used my hand mixer and I just combined all of the ingredients until all of that dry brownie mix was absorbed, and you can see how delicious and chocolatey this batter looks. Now that the brownie batter is ready, I went ahead and moved on to preparing my baking pan. For this recipe, I am using a 9x13 baking pan, and I also created a parchment sling for that. So what I did was I cut a nice long piece of parchment paper, just making sure it's large enough so that it hangs over the edges. I cut that piece into 2 pieces to create a sling. This sling will help remove the brownies from the pan once they've baked and cooled. It just ensures that the brownies come out in one piece instead of cracking, down the center when you're trying to remove them. So I went ahead and sprayed the pan with nonstick cooking spray. Then I placed 1 piece of the parchment in that pan, and that spray helps hold that piece of parchment in place. Then I added more nonstick cooking spray to the top of that piece of parchment, added the second piece going the other direction, sprayed that with nonstick cooking spray, and then I poured the brownie mix into the pan. So I carefully poured all of that brownie mix into my pan, making sure that it's nice and even. And to ensure that these little flaps of parchment paper don't blow onto my brownies as they bake, I went ahead and added a little bit of that batter to the sides and stuck the parchment to that. So these baked in a 325-degree Fahrenheit oven for about 55 to 60 minutes. Once I could smell the chocolate baking and I saw that the center was set, I went ahead and removed them from the oven. While the brownies are still warm, you can take a butter knife, or I have a plastic offset spatula because I don't want to scratch my pan, and I carefully run it along the edges of the brownies, and I lift the sides of the parchment just to kind of loosen it from the pan. I let the brownies cool for about an hour. And after they cooled, I moved on to making the icing for the little ghosts that I'm going to decorate the brownies with. So for the icing, you will need powdered sugar, vanilla extract, salt, and water. To a large bowl, I added the powdered sugar, followed by the salt. I mixed that together. Then I added the vanilla extract and a little bit of water. I would say I had probably about 2 to 3 tablespoons of water in this bowl, but I just used about half of it. I added water just until I reached the consistency that I wanted. I wanted a spreadable consistency, as you see here. So just make sure you add a little bit of water at a time. Once the icing was done, I transferred it to a smaller bowl and covered with plastic wrap and set it to the side while I cut the brownies. The brownies have cooled for a little over an hour, and to remove from the pan, I gently lift by all sides of the parchment paper until it loosens up from the pan, and then I lift it out of the pan and place it on a cutting board. So I decided to cut these into 12 equal squares. Now these brownies are super rich and decadent. You can easily cut them into 24 smaller squares, but I plan to give these out as gifts this week for Halloween, so I went with 12. And as you can see, as I cut through, that delicious chocolate goodness sticks to the knife. So I suggest that in between each cut, you use a damp paper towel to just wipe the knife clean. This will ensure you get as clean as possible, perfectly even squares of these delicious brownies. Now I'm going to go ahead and start decorating these. So I used a offset spatula with a rounded tip. You can also use a spoon, and I went ahead and tested it. So I grabbed a plate and I just practiced really quick to see what shape the little ghosts would come out with the offset spatula, and I loved this, so I went ahead and started to decorate the brownies. So I grabbed just a little bit of that icing on the tip of the spatula, and then I pressed down slightly, dragging down to create that ghost shape. I went ahead and did this to all of the brownie squares. This does not have to be perfect. Have fun with it. If you mess up a little bit, you can kind of spread a little bit more, clean it up a little bit, but I just love how they all turned out like different shapes and sizes. Once you start adding the eyes and the mouth, these really do turn into the little ghosts. They're so cute. I thought that I had black food coloring on me, but I didn't. So I found these sprinkles that I decided to use. They're little round black sprinkles. I got these in a Halloween sprinkle kit. I placed 3 of these little sprinkles on each ghost, 2 for the eyes and 1 for the mouth. And I just love the way they turned out. Now, if you do have black food coloring, you could add some to the leftover icing, place that in a piping bag, and then pipe on the eyes and the mouth. But for this day, I didn't have that, so I went ahead and used these sprinkles, and I think it turned out pretty great. I think these turned out so cute. This is such a super simple, quick recipe you can make if you're having a potluck at work or having a little get together and you want to take a delicious dessert that's Halloween themed. I would suggest making these. You can also get the kids involved, have them help you spread that icing or, put the sprinkles. I decided that I wanted to package these up as gifts for friends this week, and so I have this adorable grease-proof paper that has these little ghosts on it, and I also ordered these containers and the paper from Amazon, and I could put the link in the description of this video. So I went ahead and placed a piece of that grease-proof paper, and then I placed a brownie on top, and I kind of just scrunched that paper around it, placed a lid on it, and look at how adorable this looks. I can't wait to share with my friends this week. The brownies turned out incredible. They are super chocolatey and fudgy and just delicious. The Ghirardelli brownie mix is one of my favorites. I hope you give this recipe a try soon. I think you're gonna like it. For the full recipe, visit mybakeescape.com. I wish you a very happy Halloween. Stay safe out there and make sure to eat lots of delicious treats. Thanks for watching and have a sweet day.